Yes.
When you said jargon, obviously there are type words, not just for us, or go along with the common core.
Hold on just a second. We're having questions asked. If you could please, listen up. Yes, ma'am?
There's obviously certain terms that go along with the common core, right, that we really can't avoid. So you're not talking about that. You're basically talking about the little, our RTI and all of those sort of things that we need to avoid. But certain terms are going to have to come up with.
Right. Like park. Yes. Like common core. Like informational text.
Citing evidence.
Yes.
Okay. Analyzing.
Yes.
Those are
You should not have to explain all those things.
Okay.
But that's for this grant.
Okay.
For other grants, you could have an insurance agent truly reading your grant. I wrote a grant to Whirlpool, and I don't know if the Whirlpool grant is still around, but Whirlpool's right down here off Cedar Bluff. I got $25,000 from Whirlpool to do outreach to schools, and they like to give grants in their service area, which is, you can look, you can find out where their kids go to school. And so I'm sure that they did not have science people reading that grant. So I needed to be very explicit. They had Whirlpool employees. They may have had some science background, but in terms of school jargon, no. So you just need to make no assumptions about who's reading your grant. I think you can make a really strong case for you not have to worry about that for the STEM. Okay. Make your timetable and your timeline realistic. List your project milestones when you're going to do your report. Some of that, apparently, you're going to have to sign off on when you get your money anyway. That, at a certain point in time, your report's going to be done. You need to back up from that and make sure you get all your stuff done in time so that you can report. Make sure that the budgets are justified. So if you get a piece of equipment, let's say from a vendor, make sure you list the vendor, the price, and so forth. And then you have to have a budget narrative. A budget narrative, and you may not need it for this proposal, but you do need it for most proposals. That is, if you put in there, let's make up something, microscopes. That's pretty generic. So what you would want to have in your budget narrative would be 3 blankety-blank types of microscopes, models, such and such at so much per microscope, and then a total. If you're traveling, and this is how you're going to use your money to go to a meeting, X number of miles to wherever it is you're going, times the mileage rate for a total of round trip mileage of whatever. Hotel, make sure you put in everything that's related to your hotel. Per diem, 4 meals at whatever the per diem rate is for whatever. Registration, 1 registration as a member for, that's a budget narrative. So you have to have those sorts of things in most proposals, maybe not this one. I would check that. And then cost share. If you have a scientist come in and speak to your group as part of your project, ask them to sign a piece of paper. Get yourself, create a cost share form that says, Dr. So-and-so came in and spoke for an hour on whatever, and then the value of the time. You can also count his or her mileage. They can sign off that the value of the services they provided equals $300 or whatever. So that's how you would collect that. Describe who's going to do the work with you and what skills they have. And if you're asked, which in some cases you are, most cases you are actually, you have to have a vita or a resume that goes with it. Give evidence that you're going to do outreach. Now, outreach can be various forms. You can do it through showcase. You can do it through setting up your classroom like a showcase project of whatever it is you've done, and other students get to come and participate. And that what you're doing is transferable from one year to the next, or from one class to the next, or if it can be done in multiple places within your school. And then if possible, list the places you're going to go share what you've done. That's really important. For every conference presentation you do, most likely you'll have 10 or 20 teachers learn something from you that they'll go and do with their students if they can figure out a way, you know, for the equipment or whatever. Or you can share a lesson plan with them, or share some common core piece for math, or next generation science standards curriculum piece. People are really hungry for that right now, as you well know. Describe your outcomes, set yourself some benchmark goals, which means that if you benchmarked against time of doing some piece of the science curriculum or math curriculum, you could actually benchmark that with hours. We were able to spend, each student had 30 more additional minutes doing something because of this, whatever it is you bought, or had more opportunities to engage with something because of the way that this was delivered in the classroom. Okay. And then you need to evaluate, and you need to decide how you're going to collect the data. Start with this on the front end, you'll be happy you did. And then how you're going to continue this if you can. And we have the issue of materials. And then after you finish, you want to look around and you want to find a colleague who's willing to read your grant. And not just read it and say, oh, that's so nice, that's such a good idea. Read it as though they didn't have an idea what you were going to do. Maybe get an English teacher to read it and see if it makes sense to them. If it makes sense to them, then more than likely it makes sense. And if they don't have a clue what you're going to do, or you have like really bad grammar mistakes or punctuation mistakes, or you know, it just doesn't read well, ask them to mark it up and be happy that they did that for you, because that's really important. And that will pay off in the long run. Colleague review is really, really important. Give 2 or 3 people the scoring rubric and say, what would you score this based on this right here? And let them give you a score. And if you don't like the score, if it's not 100, figure out what they didn't like about it and fix it before it's submitted. When you submit big federal grants, like U.S. Department of Education, multi-million-dollar grants, there's usually 5 people that score your submission, and they score it by category, and then they also make notes about why they didn't give you points. They have to, because it's federal money. And then that's when you can take a grant and look at that and fix it. But again, you don't get the luxury of having the same people read it the second time. But you've got a record of what you did, and you've got a record of what people thought about it, and if it's pretty consistent across 5 people, then you can say, you know, I need to fix that.
So you actually received this rubric back?
I did, but I didn't see it on the front end. Yeah. Some federal grants are so embedded in the federal system, and you're not going to believe this, because I didn't believe it at first, that you can't miss a single point, and you have to get all the bonus points. So like you know, they would be like 100. You have to have 100, and then if there's like 6 priority points, maybe 2, 2, and 2, you can't even get a grant unless you score like 104. So it gets tough. So you get to be kind of savvy about, you know, hanging on to stuff and looking at it later. But this would be a real, since you have this, let an English teacher or let the art teacher read it. Say, what do you think? You're not going to have this, and sometimes you do, that you have to have letters of support. Check on that. Then after somebody's looked at it, make sure the pages are numbered. You don't have that big concern with this one. Proofread it. If somebody has to sign it at your school, I don't know who the check's going to be written to. Maybe that's a Mrs. Roddy question.
That will be written to the teacher.
To the teacher, okay, so there you go. So you have to just sign off on it, probably, that you'll be the good steward of the money. And then always make sure you ask somebody, do you understand what this is about? That's a really important question. Now, if you were to collect some kinds of data, if you write other bigger proposals, you have to have something called an institutional review board, which really is like using human specimens for research, and that includes educational research in some ways, but not for this one. and then that takes a long time. But then you're still not finished. This is my moose picture. Do you know what moose horns really do? Does anybody know? That's for their hearing. They're shaped, and they actually use them to hear. Yes, yes. I did not know that. But what I find amazing is that they shed these every year, and then as the moose gets older, they grow back bigger. Anyway, that's the typical moose picture. Usually you get part of the face and, of course, the hind end. If the proposal is going to be mailed, this is rare. Make sure you get it in, certified, whatever, or make sure you hit that send button to this particular STEM grant before 11:59 p.m. because otherwise you're in trouble. So how do you get started? Okay, well, you have an RFP right now. You got one, and it's going to be something that I think you can do pretty easily. So do some reading about what it is you want to do. How many of you now know a little bit more about what you want to write for? I saw like 5 people. Would you mind sharing, or do you not want to share? Like super secret?
I'm doing microscopes.
You're going to do a microscope grant, okay? Yes.
We have a wetlands area outside of our school, and it'd be nice to do science kits with microscopes or hand lenses, specimen boxes
Okay.
that they could check out of the library, and then that would impact our whole school.
Good. Anybody else have a cool idea? Everybody's got to keep their idea. How many grants are going to get awarded?
Well, we don't know. We have $10,100 to give out, and so we will start by funding the top scoring grant, and we'll go down from there. So we could score lots of $50 grants. We could only fund $10,000 grants.
Okay.
So we'll just go down the list by the top score and
Okay.
fund until the money runs out.
Okay. So that's good to know. You can sign up for grant notifications. If you like this, there are lots of jobs for grant writers, by the way, if you like to write. And they pay very, very well. If you can get a grant writer for under $1,000 a day, you're lucky, because they usually charge you more than that. You can go to the U.S. Department of Education and you can sign up, and also NSF, and you get grant notifications. I get probably 20 or 30 RFPs in my email box daily, and that includes Sunday. So they're constantly coming out, but those are the big ones. Yes.
I'm sorry, you said go to U.S. Department of Education, and what was the other one?
National Science Foundation, NSF. But then there are plenty of others, and I'm going to show you some others. And you can get on a list where they will send you these grant RFPs as they come out. Usually you have 60 to 90 days notice to respond to them, and then some of these are recurring. Like every 6 months there'll be another one come out. If you get really jazzed up about this, sign up and get somebody to endorse you, by the way, that is maybe in a school system, to read grant applications. Now, I can tell you that you better like to read, because you usually get 10 grants to read in 5 days. And some of those grants are several hundred pages long. They're big. There's supposed to be a limitation, but then they have all these rules for appendices and stuff. And the U.S. Department of Education will let you review grants. They'll either fly you into Washington, D.C. and put you up in a hotel and feed you, and then they pay you like $1,000 for your week for reading, and you earn your money. Or sometimes they will have them done electronically, where you conference call with your other people that are reading the same grant until you get to some consistent score. That is probably the best training that you could possibly have to write grants, is see what other people are submitting. But I promise you, I have had grants given to me that are bigger than a ream of paper.
Wow.
And you do have to read at least 10 in a week. So you are reading constantly, and then you meet and you talk to other people about how they scored the same grant that they've been off in their little hotel room reading. And then, you know, I've done that several times for like Gear Up, for like the TRIO programs, for like the Minority Science and Engineering Improvement Program, and there's another one I've done too. It's fabulous training, you get paid, you get to go to DC, and they feed you really well. You usually gain weight, so that's not the good part. But anyway, so become a grant reviewer, get a hold of successful grant applications. They are federally funded. You can ask for a copy of grants that have been submitted and like are old, and I believe they have to give you something or give you access to some of these. So they've gotten a little bit tighter on that when there's proprietary information, but generally you can find successful grant applications and just read what's in them. That's good. But becoming a grant reviewer, if you've got the time and the inclination, I recommend it. So here's some websites. So these are the potential funders. So here's one. This is one that you would get all the time. This is the grants alert. And if you look, it's like, I don't know what half of these are. These are everything. They're not just science, but it shows you the dates that they're due. There's one for Polar Trek, NCTM Pre-K, Pre-Service Teacher Action Research Grants. That would be classroom research grants. So you can go to these and you see when the deadlines are, you can click on them and you get it all. Here's a CVS Caremark Community Grant. There's been a lot of CVS people come to meetings that I've been to recently, and they seem to have money that they want to put out into the community. This might be something you want to look at. Okay, so that's one website. Another, oops, this is called FundsNet Services, and this is another place where you can find grants by categories. So there's education and literacy, there's math grants, there's curriculum and lesson plans. You have a lot of Latino students, there's grants for Latino students, students with disabilities, fundraising resources, grant writing resources, and on and on and on. So you can get lost in this for days, because this is just the first link into those categories. Beyond that, there's lots of things. There, oh man. The Meyer Foundation. This is for kids, this is for innovative programs to get equity and pre-collegiate education. And it'll tell you all about the Meyer Foundation and where they fund, and I looked to make sure, and they fund in this area. So they give you the guidelines, how to reply, who's received the grants, how much they got. Let's just look at that and see. So they look to be around $10,000. Now there's one that's $35,000. So there's different levels, but they fund nationally. Okay. This is an interesting one. This is right down the road from us. Vulcan Materials. Do you know about Vulcan? Mm-hmm. All right. So you already know they give grants, right? They do. You have one right here in our community, so this would be a good place to go look if you're, especially if you teach geology or anything about geology. That's what they like to do. That's always really important to know what they like to do, because then you play to what they want to do and you help them do it. Then let's see. The Dollar General, Gail's gone now, but Dollar General is all about literacy. So if you have students that are struggling readers, there are grants there that you can go to. Okay. Sorry, I'm having to do this the backwards way. So the number of grant websites is overwhelming. Now I believe you've got a copy of a grant form that's really easy to complete.
It's the colored handout that you have with the little boy at the top.
one is, you have to join this website of theirs, and then you start getting like newsletters. Sometimes you actually, it's that one right there, with the little guy on it, that one. That's the one that 3 teachers filled out when I did the day-long workshop that Gail said she got the Dollar General. That one is for science stuff related to space and aeronautics, astronautics. So what you have to do is go on and become a member, which doesn't cost anything, and you get a username and a password, and then once you do that, you can fill out the form and submit it. They used to allow, I think this one says $250, and I'll tell you how I would use this if I were you. They used to allow teachers to group together and then buy bigger pieces of stuff by having, you know, like a team application. I don't know that they do that anymore. But if you apply for the STEM Spark grant and you get $1,000 or whatever, that's when I'd apply for this one and say, I've just been awarded whatever, and there are other materials I would like to have, and I will cost share this grant of $250 with $1,000. Sounds like a good deal to them, because now their name and their publicity actually is linked to what you're doing in your school with other money that's really promoting STEM education. So there's lots of little tricks like that that you can do. Can I use yours just for a second? So if you look at this, it'll give you an ID, you put your school address, and look at how easy this is. See, it says we cannot partially fund a grant that may not be implemented due to lack of additional funding. So you wait till you get your grant from STEM Spark, and then you say the purpose of the grant, right here, and you submitted a lesson plan, and how many students are going to be impacted. You've already got this, right? It's limited to $250, so you could get now $1,250 if you played your cards right and waited until you got your $1,000 and then did the $250 on top of that. So it's kind of a game.
Is there a date of this?
This is no.
So, I mean, this is the application.
That's the application right there. Dollar General's is similar. So let's suppose you had a struggling reader in your science or your math class, and you could get something for your science or your STEM from the STEM Hub grant, but that there would be needs for some students to have different kinds of reading materials. That's when I'd go to Dollar General. I have this, I have a struggling reader, I need to have materials that address the same concept at a different level. Get some money that way. Okay, we are almost finished, but I want to answer questions. If you sign up to get these grants coming into your mailbox, just be prepared that you can hit delete if you need to. If you don't have a format, actually I think I have this one that we just talked about, then you can use the format that's on the RFP paper that was handed out. It starts on page 17, which really goes through the same things we've talked about over and over. The need.
It's not for 16. Our last page is 16.
Really? Okay.
But it has the format.
Okay, that's because I added the moose and the bear pictures. That's it.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
okay. Thank you. It says if you don't have an RFP format, use this one. It starts then, and it's like state the need, who's going to benefit, who are you going to partner with, what are you going to do, how are you going to evaluate it, how are you going to report, there's your budget narrative, and play by their rules. No matter what the rules are, play by their rules. Okay, so I've left a whole whopping 5 minutes for questions, but I hope you have some.
Well, we started 5 minutes late because of the rainstorm.
Okay, so we have questions. We have time for questions.
Is there someplace, if you're looking for something specific, I'm a librarian, and so I want to try to get nonfiction books, math, science. Is there somewhere special, because a lot of the grants will say, you know, this is for your science class, what are you gonna do in your science class, you know, is there something special that you can,
For books?
for books, that you can just get books for
particular grant, but yes, there are library grants, you bet.
And, well, I Googled and I come up with not something, I just Googled library books for schools or, you know.
You need
I
to
just-
look for literacy grants, and there's actually, I wish I could remember the name of the institution. You got my email address, I believe, at the bottom of this. I will send you about the library grants, because there are places that give like books that, to schools that need books. And, you could probably be pretty specific about the types of books that you want, but it's for improving libraries. And if you need, if you would need like STEM books, is that what you're looking for? Then you could probably be pretty specific about that. But send me an email and I'll send you the link to the library grant. And then there's foundations that address that. Certainly the Dollar General would address some pieces of that with literacy. I think Barbara Bush has a foundation that gives books. I don't know if they give books nationally or not. But the library grant that I've seen that's for, you know, improving library collections, those are national, and it's, I can't remember, I'll send you the link to the organization that does that, and they come out pretty regularly. You get pretty big chunks of money for that.
And you can tie that to Common Core too,
Yes.
especially in science.
Right. If you're looking for where to find the names of the books, if you're in an elementary school, GEMS, Great Explorations in Math and Science out of Lawrence, Berkeley Hall of Science in California, they have books that are aligned to particular science content that are really good. Some, not all of them are good. Some of them actually lead to misconceptions, but the majority of them are pretty good. And they may have a new version of that out now that they've fixed some of the problems. If any of you are thinking about professional development is what you're gonna do with your money, I would look at AAAS, their Common Core training that they're gonna have. That's pretty much top-notch stuff. They also have scholarships, so that they'll pay your registration and or part of your travel and or part of your hotel if you don't have enough money to do it. So I would look at that. And there's an ongoing open registration right now. Go to AAAS.org. You've done AAAS stuff. Yeah, it's good stuff. But they've got a new Common Core one out right now.
American Association for the Advancement of
Science. Yes, I'm sorry. It is.
Yes.
Yeah.
Jargon.
Yes.
I have a quick one. I don't know if our leaving, but I'm language in the middle of all the STEM stuff, and I am the one asked to read grants, and I've written grants and gotten several for our science people. I seem to have a problem trying to get something for my language classroom, and it's my viewpoint that language opens that door for a greater understanding of math and science, where I don't know what I keep doing wrong. I'm asking, I want the technology in my room so that I can have everything at their fingertips as we do multimedia stuff, as we pull Common Core in, and I don't seem to be able to hit what science and math want to hear me say in the
They want
grants.
to hear you say informational text, I'm pretty sure.
I have said informational text all over the place, and using that, analyzation, analyzing, whatever, do we want to say informational text or not? I mean, because that's what I'm doing, because if you're pulling in all that nonfiction, the informational text, supporting that through, opening up with science, math.
So you're applying for grants for the language arts side?
Yes,
not
ma'am, and it
successfully.
seems like we can get those iPads for the math room, but they won't give it to us for language, like, really, we want to put all of that together. I just see language as the place where it all comes together,
I
to
agree.
help everything else, and it's like, language, so sorry, it's not about you, and.
So do you have like a need, not just for the stuff to do what you want to do, but do you have a need in the reading area for those students?
That I can show you statistically through TCAP scores,
Yes.
things like that, yes ma'am.
You should be able to do that then, because if you can make the need, I talked to the people from ACT, and I really wanted a different answer than what I got. I wanted them to tell me that the reason why kids were dropping out of college was because of the math. But that's not what they told me. They told me it was because of reading, especially early childhood reading, and if you invest your money in the reading side, so
You could go to ACT, probably their website, and look at some of the research, and they may send you some citations, because I said, that's not what I wanted to hear, cause I was a math and science person. I wanted him to say, you need to do more math to keep the kids in college, but he said, no, it's reading. Cause that's the key. So, I don't know what to tell you to do. I just know that it's really important, and I'm confused as to why you're not having success with that. Do you put data charts into your proposals?
Well, the latest one I did was the ORAU one.
Uh-huh.
And I thought, I got this, and did not, and I put in, it did not ask for any of the data. It was very simple. It's just that 1 or 2 page thing. I'm sure several of you have seen that and, and done that as well. It just asked for the proposal, the student benefits, and what curriculum issues are you addressing.
Remember the hot box that I talked about?
Yes, ma'am.
The little hot box with a graph in it that shows the reading as compared to maybe the math, in terms of gains using technology like the before and after. And make sure you get 3-year trends of data to put in those boxes. Because that would probably make the case for you in a picture of what you've been trying to show, and that is that you have the right stuff, you can make a difference for kids. And I would be glad to read proposals if you want to, not this one. No, not this one. That would be conflict of interest.
Okay.
But like if you want me to read it sometime, you have a proposal, and if I can understand it, or if it's about the language thing, I'd be happy to read them.
Thank you.
What's her rejection letter say?
What is a rejection
What
letter?
is her rejection when she's not getting?
I don't know. Did you get feedback? Did you get feedback on your proposal?
I did. No, ma'am, I did not from the ones I sent it to. I had another colleague look at it who had also.
Did you ask for
been awarded
feedback? Did you ask him? That's federal money too.
Oh, I did not know that I could do that.
I would.
Okay, thank you. I'll certainly do that.
Yeah. I ask for feedback on anything I don't get funded for. Cause they're supposed to have notes.
That makes it more fun, you just direct it.
That's right. Hey, this lady is serious. Next time, boy, we better get with it. Yeah. Anybody else have any questions? Well, I wish you all the best, and I hope you get all your money.